Hello everybody, my name is Gabe Smoley. You may know me from a video about 10 seconds ago that just started. We're here to talk about Unchained 21. It's a beer called Us and Them. There's two threads of it. It's an American IPA and a Session IPA. And essentially what we have here is one mash and two distinct beers. Now the basis of this recipe is actually our Saga recipe. It's the same malt bill, it's the same hops. The hops are included in the recipe in the kettle at the same time, but there are a lot of changes made to give us two distinct different types of beer. And one of the fun things about this is using the Saga recipe as a base. I think people will have like a foundation and kind of an idea of what you can do with one beer when you split it into two polar opposites. And that was the kind of the idea when I did this, because this is a two-thread parti-gyle. And parti-gyle basically means you have one recipe, one mash, and you make two different beers out of it. And that's not a new idea. That's an idea that's been done by brewers in the UK for hundreds of years, and it was done out of necessity more than anything. They didn't have a vessel large enough to boil all the liquid they were getting from the lauter tun, so they'd have to boil the first half, and then they would take the runnings, the leftovers, the second half of the wort, and they would make a different beer, a much smaller beer, because the first runnings are much stronger. So you get a lot of your imperial beers coming from first threads. That's the first part of the mash that runs off from the lauter into the kettle. So what I decided to do here is make a big beer with the first runnings, and then make a smaller, more sessionable IPA. And then the fun part of this is we're putting both of them in the same six-pack. You'll get 3 of the American style IPA and you'll get 3 of the Session IPA. This first thread, which is the American IPA, we gave it that name so there was a point of reference for people, but it's a very big beer, but drinks extremely smooth. I like this beer because it's really juicy. You get a lot of those characteristics that people are familiar with in Saga and with those citra hops. And it's really, really juicy. It's like you're biting into a grapefruit. The warming effect of the alcohol is nice too. It's not overpowering, so really nice beer. Maybe a little dangerous, but that's okay. The smaller of the two beers we're calling a Session IPA. Very hop forward. There's a lot of aromatics in this one, which is nice. You get that punch, that citrusy punch from this beer, but it drinks extremely clean too. There's a lot of flavor in this beer. I like the aromatics in this one. It gives off the impression that maybe it's going to be a much stronger, more aggressive beer than it actually is. So that's also nice. And having both of these two beers in a mixed six-pack, I think is going to be really fun for people. That was one of the technical challenges we had here too. We had to figure out not only how to split our mash into 2 separate beers, taking the runnings from the lauter tun to make 2 separate beers, but we also had to figure out a way to put 3 of each of these beers in the same six-pack. So not only was the parti-gyle idea a first for us, so was doing a mixed six-pack. And I must thank the people from packaging for all of your hard work, because it was a learning curve for all of us, but a lot of fun. The idea for the name behind this beer, Us and Them, I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan, so that's part of it. But the other part of it for me is this idea in craft beer and beer drinking in general that there's only one way to have beer or one way to enjoy beer. And I think enjoying beer is in the eye of the beer holder. That's a good one. But essentially, like, if there's a beer you like, as long as there's not something wrong, there's not a technical issue with the beer itself, people should enjoy any beer they like, and there's no wrong way to enjoy craft beer. So you might identify more with one than the other, and that might be your version of Us. That might be the beer that you identify with, and it might be different for each person. So it's this idea that people have different preferences, but it's all very subjective and personal. Unchained 21, Us and Them, it's a 2-thread parti-gyle, 3 American IPAs and 3 Session IPAs in the same six-pack. You can get this on draft in your local liquor store now. So go out there, try it, enjoy this. This is like I've considered this to be like a brewing experience where people can actually go home and have a unique new drinking experience at home or at your favorite bar, being able to try something like the Saga in 2 polar opposites. I think that's an honest drinking experience for people. So go try it, grab a six-pack, try it at your local establishment, and tell us what you think. Cheers. Tremble. Yeah, that works, I guess.